Yesterday, June the 21st, 2022, Cloudflare experienced an around 2 hour outage. I briefly talked about it, speculated before Cloudflare released a detailed blog, and kind of speculated what might be the case. This is the first time I think that I was right. Granted, what could be other reasons? Like this was the only reason that I thought this might be the problem. But I thought this video we will go through the article that Cloudflare posted and kind of just discuss what exactly was the change, what happened, and all that jazz. Let's jump into it. All right, guys. So I gotta start with I really appreciate the work that Cloudflare does, educating the public about such technical details. When an outage happens, when there's new content, when there's new technology, they release technical details. Not a lot of people do that. And that's why I really admire this company. So with that being said, kudos to all engineers that managed to fix the outage and really quickly. Just the ramification of such huge outage takes time, as you guys know. That's why it took almost 2 hours. But let's go through this. This was written by Tom Strix and Jeremy Hartman. Cloudflare outage on June 21, 2022. So I'm going to read the introduction a little bit, the background of the change, and then go into the actual technical detail of what happened. Let's go through this. Introduction. Today, June 21st, 2022, Cloudflare suffered an outage that affected traffic in 19 of our data centers. That's a lot of data centers. So this means that was huge. That's why everyone felt it, right? Unfortunately, these 19 locations handle a significant portion of our global traffic. So what was the reason? The outage was caused by a change that was part of long-running project to increase the resilience of our busy locations. So they had this project to improve the resilience of these very busy location, and the technical details in that project, to be honest, I'm not very familiar. It's very related to telecom. I'm not an expert in telecom specification, right? And you would think it's like, why would Cloudflare has to do with telecom? But we'll get to that. But it's always a change to a configuration. If you remember, I think last year or 2 years before, a Cloudflare outage was exactly identical to this one. Happened because of a configuration change. It was a spilling in this case. But this one, it was very similar. But if you ever wrote any code, you will immediately see it. It's actually interesting. We'll get through that. A change to the network configuration in this location caused an outage which started at 6:27 UTC, and at 6:58 UTC, the first data center was brought back online. So it took them around shy to 40 minutes to bring the first data center down, but the whole thing took, as I explained, took like 2 hours. 7:42, all data centers were broken. Is that really 2 hours? 6:27. Actually, it's less than 2 hours. Let's be generous. All right. Depending on your location in the world, you might have felt it. A lot of you guys felt it, obviously. And it's interesting. This only happens if you actually use Cloudflare as your hosting provider, obviously, or as a DDoS protection, or you used it as a CDN, as a caching layer, right? So your actual origin might be reachable, and I'm not sure about that, to be honest. But Cloudflare, right, communication between its data center and your origin servers, that's what was severed. I'm not sure because I didn't actually test that. I was at work yesterday. Can you actually access your direct origin directly from wherever your location? Did the internet actually break like the last time? I'm not sure about that. We'll find out. So here they talk about the background of this one, and you can read through this. This is something called class network. I never heard of anything like that before. So they're changing this. This is a technology from 1938 or whatever. I think I just opened this and it's like, what is this? Class network? I never heard of it. Circuit switching. So for you network engineers, you might be familiar with this is a packet switch network apparently. And not very familiar with that. So they're changing that. They're moving from that to a better resilient. And this is their new architecture. And in that move, they ran into this. So here where they talk about the PGP, which is the border gateway protocol, which is what the internet basically relies on. And they talk about how prefix work. We talked about that, right? So PGP, as I explained yesterday, is this. It's the internet protocol that connects autonomous systems together, And you might say, why do we need autonomous systems? And the reason is like, it's not feasible for routers to track individual IP addresses, because if you ever took my database course, it's always better to work with a smaller set, right, than a larger sets. So if you have billion rows, what do? We index, we partition, we try to minimize the subset as much as possible. And this is what the internet did. So they said, okay, I'm not going to track every single IP address. It's not feasible. So people created this autonomous system, which is, think of it as like a collection of IP addresses in database speak. And there is a reference that points to this whole collection. And AS1 is something, AS7 is something, AS19, maybe Facebook. Like every ISP has an autonomous system, and the routers only keep track of these autonomous systems instead of individual IP addresses. So that's kind of a very simple explanation of the gateway protocol. So this allows you, okay, you can go to this autonomous system from this and this and this, and you can reach to this IP address which belongs to this autonomous system and this and this and this, right? So these routing rules are all decided by the PGP. So if you want to go to this certain IP address, we find which ISP you are on, which autonomous system AS, and then we route you based on that. The routers decided where to go. So naturally, even if your backend up and running, even if IP is alive, if the routers don't have an entry that says, here's how you get to that autonomous system which hosts that IP address, that IP packet will never reach. It will be dropped. And that's what happened here. That's what they explain here. So accept, reject. So they have these rules. Here's they go through the timeline of what exactly happened. And you can see that this is exactly, right, what the drop when that PGP entry actually disappeared. And obviously the outage impacted 50%. Yikesy. It's almost like 50%. So the rest of the other 50% didn't really see that. It's probably because of going through different data centers that were not effective. Let's go through the technical details. What did they do to the PGP that actually broke this? As part of our continued effort to standardize our infrastructure configuration, we were rolling out a change to standardize the PGP communities we attached to a subset of the prefixes we advertise. Specifically, we were adding informational communities to our site local prefixes. So what I understand here when I read this is not really an actual change. They add a little bit more information, right, to the site local prefixes. So it's not technically that change shouldn't change anything, but they're preparing for the big migration effectively. So what happened? The change looked like this on one of our routers. So this is the way they're adding a bunch of communities, right? Again, I don't know the details, the intricacies of the PGP, right? But this is what it looks like. This was harmless, but look at this. Read this code now, and don't pay attention to the actual, what this means. But look at this. If you read this term advertise free, and then you have reject the rest, and then after that we have this is, by the way, the change. I believe this exclamation mark, this is add. So the merge, there was a merge problem. It's always a merge problem, right? So when they merge, this is what happened. The reject the rest is before these, the site locals. So think of this as an actual return, right? If your code execute here and it returns here, it will never execute whatever is below it, right? That's exactly what happened. This is what the actual prefixes were, you know, that advertises the PGP, that this is, hey, here's how you can find me. Here's how you can find the rest of the world. These are all gone. So let's read through this. This is the diff format. The exclamation mark in front of the terms indicate a reordering of the terms. Yikes. In this case, multiple terms moved up and 2 terms were added bottom. Specifically, the 4 ADV site locals and 6 EDV site locals. Is this IPv6 versus IPv4? I don't know, to be honest. But terms moved from the top to the bottom. These terms were now behind the reject the rest term. And as it might be clear from the name, this is an explicit reject, so they show you the actual, I guess, configuration behind it. Then reject. If the term is this, then reject everything. So that's what happened. Cloudflare disappeared. At least part of its network disappeared from the internet. That's very similar to what Facebook did. It just stopped advertising its presence to the PGP routers. This term is now before the site local terms. We immediately stopped advertising our site local prefixes, removing our direct access to all impacted location, as well as removing the ability from our servers, which is the CDNs, or the DDoS protection edge servers, to reach origin servers. Here's what I have a question about. Right? So now we understand this. This is identical to what I speculated yesterday in my car, right? Right? While I was making that video. You make a request. How did I know, by the way? The screenshots you guys sent me are all 500. That means you got a response. This is not, to me, as a backend engineer, I don't consider this an error. Well, it is an error to a user, but to me, no. You got a response. The TCP connection successful with you and Cloudflare. The TLS connection was successful. The HTTP request sent. Cloudflare responded to you with content. It happened to be 500. But looking at layer 7 and above as a user, that was an error because Cloudflare could not turn around and talk to your origin backend server. So between you as a client and Cloudflare, that was normal. It's the Cloudflare to the backend that was broken. And that was very interesting to understand. Why did I know that? Because the error clearly says could not reach DNS, whatever. I could not resolve the server that you tried to access. Now, after you establish a TLS connection between you and Cloudflare, there is an extension, a TLS extension called the SNI, server name indication, that gives you a clear name of what server are you trying to access in the TLS client. Hello. And I talked about that. Just Google SNI, right, in YouTube. In that server name indication, Cloudflare uses that to know which host you want to access and uses that to resolve DNS. And guess what? It couldn't even resolve DNS. Why? Not because DNS is down, because the connection to the resolvers on the backend probably is dead. Maybe 1111, which is their local resolver, was up, okay? But the subsequent authoritative name server that hosts your entry, the DNS, I'm talking about DNS, guys, check that out video. That server is not reachable because the Cloudflare autonomous system is not able to reach any outside network. That's what happened. As a result, you got this 500. But this tells me that it's very, very isolated, this error. Does that mean, can I access my server directly? Forget about Cloudflare. If I know the host name immediately, that host name, can I access that directly? I don't know. I don't know if that outside network, I might be using some another path that doesn't go through Cloudflare, and I can reach my backend server directly. Right? And obviously, it's not as simple as what I'm saying. Obviously, when you, like Stack Overflow works with Fastly, I believe, in a very similar way. So they have stackoverflow.com that goes through their CDN to the Fastly CDN. So the host name DNS entry points to a Fastly IP address. And using the SNI, right, Fastly will look up, right? It will have entries. It will act like exactly like a reverse proxy in this case. It will say, okay, stackoverflow.com is actually this backend, this backend, this backend, this backend. Maybe server 1, SN1.stackoverflow, SN2, SN3, SN. And these are actual host names that you can access directly if you want, if you know them, that trick. And that's how actually Stack Overflow was hit with the denial of service attack. They had this backend server actually exposed publicly, not just by Fastly. I say Fastly, but I'm not 100% sure if it was Fastly or not. So if those was exposed publicly, that means the attackers can hit those servers directly. The appropriate approach is to isolate those backend servers so only Fastly or only Cloudflare can access that, and you can do that with the firewall. That's a true DDoS protection, if you will. So this way, everything, all the clients hit Fastly, right? And because it's distributed, the attack is decimated. And then they talk about the Unimog load balancer, which I absolutely adore. I talked about it last year. This is very, going through this stuff, I really want to, sometimes one day get into this as like full time, like, because I don't do this for full time. Right? My main thing is GIS and geodatabase stuff and database stuff. But I want to do this one day. I don't know when. One day, hopefully, if YouTube pans out. But yeah, this is very interesting stuff. So they talk about the remediations, like, okay, we're sorry. What do we do? What can we do? We really take responsibility very seriously. Here's what we're gonna do to not run into this again. Well, the MCP program. What is MCP again? Most cooperative program. I'm making things up, guys, if you didn't know. Was designed to improve availability. A procedural gap in how we updated these data centers ultimately caused a broader impact in MCP. So can we safely say, guys, I don't know, guys, please show me your comments. What do you think about the whole thing? Was this all a merge error? Was this really just a get merge error? Because that will be, because that's what it looks like. It was a diff, right? And a merge error moved that reject all at the beginning, and then everything died. Is that really what was the problem? Or am I just oversimplifying it? Let me know. Architecture, the incorrect router configuration prevented the proper routes from being announced. Right? Preventing traffic from flowing properly to our infrastructure. Ultimately, the policy statement that caused the incorrect routing advertisement will be redesigned to prevent unintentional incorrect ordering. So this is an odd statement. I don't know what it means. I felt that you guys just merged it and caused. Okay, maybe they will rethink about this reject all, because why do you reject all? But if you think about reject all, is actually a good thing for the DDoS protection, because you don't want anyone to connect to the It's like you won't limit who can connect to an autonomous system, I think. Conclusion, let's read the conclusion. Although Cloudflare has invested significantly in our MCP design, you know what, let's be more productive and actually understand what MCP is. Oh, there you go. This is what they abbreviated their 19 data centers. Okay, MCP. All right, let's go back. To improve service availability, we clearly fell short of our customer expectation with this very painful incident. We are deeply sorry for the disruption of our customers, and to all the users, we were unable to access internet properties during outage. This is what I want to know. Did Cloudflare, let me know, guys. Did Cloudflare actually, were you not able to access a site that has nothing to do with Cloudflare? Again, by nothing to do with Cloudflare, I mean that site is not actually hosted by Cloudflare or is not using Cloudflare as a gate for DDoS protection, which I think a lot of sites uses those, right? If you ever went to a site, you'll see a splash screen saying, Cloudflare checking your data, or whatever, and then reroutes back to that. That's DDoS protection, effectively, right? I don't know. I think it's very isolated to sites hosted by Cloudflare or uses that. I don't know if it's like, hey, I could access my site normally and has nothing to do with Cloudflare, probably because it's on top of Google platform. But yes, what happened if you went to a path, right, that Cloudflare actually managed a route, you know? I guess the internet is so resilient, it will just pick you another path, so things will slow down a little bit. But yeah, whatever the outage that happened a few years back with Cloudflare, that destroyed the internet, actually. You know, you couldn't access anything. Just like normal site was down, right? Because of this gateway. Like there are two paths, and both of them, I think their Atlanta router was just overwhelming. They just, and as a result, all the traffic went to another route, and that went down as well, and two sites went down. So I think they put protection against that. That's why we never seen it before. That's why we've seen only 50%, not the whole entire world, right? Yeah, I don't know, guys. Let me know, guys. This was just a coverage of what happened. I absolutely adore this stuff, man. Cloudflare is a great company. I know, yeah, outages happen. It's 2 hours, but at this, it's a very costly 2 hours because it's Cloudflare, right? But yeah, I just appreciate a prompt response. You know, the outage happened, I think it was released right after I went to work. You know, I made the video around maybe 6:30 in the morning, PST, Pacific Standard Time, and the blog was released at 7. I was like, really? Okay, I could have waited, but it's better to release a quick video and then release another one detailing them. Right, guys? Subscribe for more coverage like this. I talk about the backend. That's what I like to talk about mostly in this channel. Check out my courses. Check out this beautiful course, network.husseinnasser.com. The link directs automatically to Udemy with the latest discount coupon. Apply. If you use that, you're going to be supporting me directly. Obviously, support this channel. Consider becoming a member. We have over 60-70 member-only exclusive content here. You know, you get all this badges and stuff like that, you know, to your name, and you'll be supporting the channel. And also, you get every course that I talked about on YouTube. You get all that slides also for free if you're a member. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Stay awesome.